Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get too far in, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that really helps my channel. I also love it if you leave comments, so please feel free to leave a comment if you would. Today, I thought, for my multi-project video this week, I thought we could do 3 simple types of sheet earrings because sheet earrings seem to be pretty popular with a lot of people. So let's give that a try. I'm going to do 3 different kinds. First one is going to be kind of overlapping with some movement. The second one is going to be layered, sort of slightly domed discs, 1 or 2 with texture. And then also that's going to include multiple metals. I'm going to do silver, brass, and copper on those ones. And then finally I'm going to do some kind of conical earrings, and we're going to have a couple of dark blue synthetic spinels at the top, bezel set and attached to the ear wire. So we'll see how that goes. Before we get started, I wanted to thank my patrons over on Patreon. They're an amazing group of people with a lot of talent. I really appreciate their support, both financial and just as far as being a great community over there. I also wanted to thank my YouTube subscribers. If you're not one, you should be, so subscribe to my channel. But those of you who've been here for a while, I really appreciate all of those really kind comments you leave, as well as the financial contributions, like the Buy Me a Coffee thing. That really helps with supplies and stuff. I use up a lot of materials every week, so that helps keep me in supplies. With that being said, let's get started on these 3 projects. So this is my design idea book, and anymore I always draw up my designs before I get started on them, just because it helps me to have a little bit of a concrete idea in my head what I'm going to do. Oops, I went too far. These are available in my merch store if you're interested. They have a little kind of a dot graph in the background, so it helps me to keep things proportional when I'm drawing them up. So today, let me see if I can find something to point with. I was originally going to do kind of some little pear shapes overlapped like this, but I think I'm going to do discs that I kind of make wavy like this, so that it gives them a little bit of light catching ability when they move in the light. I think I'm going to leave these ones untextured, and I've actually already cut out these discs out of 22 gauge sheet just to save a little time on the video since we're doing 3 things. If you look over here, you can see how I've got the top one hanging from the ear wire. The next one down has a little piece of 20 gauge wire that I'm going to loop around like this, so the other one hangs off of that, and continue going down the line like that. It should give them some nice movement, and I think that'll make for really eye-catching earrings. So I've seen similar stuff to this before. I think they're a nice design, and I think you could modify it in a lot of different ways. I still think this is going to look like kind of like that scale mail armor from the Middle Ages if you do it. So I might do that at some point too. For the second one, I was thinking to do 3 different metals, same shape overlapped, one on top of the other, some textured, some not. I was going to do triangles, but I think I'm going to do circles for this one too. But I'm going to dome them a little bit just to make it a little different. A lot of these are real flat, and I want these to have a little bit of depth to them. So I'm going to slightly dome them. I'm also going to hammer the back one, which is going to be silver. The middle one's copper. I'm going to shine that up to a high polish, and then the brass one on the top I'm going to hammer as well. So it should give it some contrast. There'll be a jump ring going through here, probably 20 gauge. I will solder that shut, and then I'm going to make an ear wire and add to it. Same. I'll probably just, for this one, I'll probably just drill it, add a jump ring, solder it closed, and then I'll add an ear wire after that. Third one, I'm going to make a couple of bezels, open back bezels for these little, where did I put those? They're these really intense blue synthetic spinels. They have a lot of fire, and I think those will look nice up top above these ones. These ones are going to be a circular cone. I think I'm going to texture it. I haven't picked out the texture yet. I probably will do that. But it's going to come from a piece of 22 gauge sheet on each one that's about this dimensions. I kind of calculated out how much it should be, at least in my brain. We'll see if it works out that way. So yeah, this will be, the bezel will be attached to the ear wire on this one, or an ear wire will be attached to the bezel. Either way, you can look at it either way, I suppose. So I think though first let's get started on shaping Actually, let's drill these guys. I got 6 little discs we need to drill a hole through, all at about the same point, I think. So I think we can probably stack them and tape them together, and then maybe we can get a good even drill all the way through, all 3 of them in the same spot. I would like them to be pretty symmetrical. I probably should have made a backup 1 or 2 in case I screw them up. Also, I'm going to clean the edge up so it's a little bit smoother. I think if you hammered these ones, it would make them really sparkly. That would be. You could do a lot of variations with this. You could change the size of the circles so they're descending, like I was going to do on these. I just punched these out with a disc cutter. If you've never seen a disc cutter, they look like this. And they have different sized cutting pins that you put through whichever hole fits. You slide a piece of sheet into the slot there and hit it with a hammer really hard, and it knocks out little circles for you. Pretty handy if you have to make a whole bunch of circles. You got to hit it pretty hard though, so I usually don't do it on my table here in front of me. Probably knock my computer right off the table. I want this hole to not be so close to the edge that it's problematic as far as how thick the edge of the sheet is, but about right there, I think. So let's go. Well, I'll get the other one ready and then we'll go over there and we'll drill some holes. I think in order to hold these guys in place, I'm going to do it right here. This little vise has got 4 little pins that kind of hold it in place. I use an ice pick as a center punch, mostly because center punches have a tendency to have kind of a dull tip on them. Like this is the one I used to use. And it's not very sharp, so it doesn't give me a very precise little dimple. Alright, I'm good at breaking these little bits. Let's see if I can do this without doing it this time. Going through 3 pieces of 22. Let's see how that turned out. That's just what I was hoping for. Okay, we got a nice symmetrical hole through 3 of them. Let me do this other one. Okay, let me get these cleaned up a little bit. This one got a little beat up when I punched the disc out, so I may clean that up a little more with the Dremel later. To bend these so that they're kind of saddle shaped, I'm going to dome them just slightly in this big dapping block like that. Okay, I've got some slight domes to them. I think I want the edges to just kind of curl forward just slightly. Let's give us a little bit of shape. Well, I hope everybody who's in the US here survived a little cold snap we had. Pretty chilly here for a while. Okay, so at the bottom, these are going to be stacked like this. So I need to have a little piece of 20 gauge wire sticking out of the bottom of this one and the bottom of this one. Not so much this one though, since there's nothing below it. So I want to try and get to be pretty close to straight down from the top of that. I've also got two jump rings, one for the top one up here and one for the top one up here. So we'll solder that closed, and then we'll pickle everything separate. I'll probably polish them individually and then hook them together at the end. So, but let's solder a little bit of 20 gauge on the back of each of these. I just cut some little, maybe 5/8 to 3/4 inch, or I don't know, two centimeters maybe. A little less than 2. If you've never been to my channel before, I do a lot of what's called pick soldering, and that's where I pick up a little bit of solder and place it precisely. What I'm about to do here is very similar to pick soldering. I'm actually going to hold these in my tweezers, and I'm going to cut a few pieces of hard silver solder. I don't need very big ones. In fact, I really don't want it to be big and clumpy near where they attach. Okay, if you're interested in the actual pick soldering process, I'll put a link up there for you. There's a nice video to show you how to do it. I think it's one of those skills that really makes things a lot easier. Like you saw, I use hard silver sheet solder. I use a spray-on flux called My-T-Flux. I'm going to flux the end that I filed flat there. That spot. If I just set this right on a piece of solder like that, I can pick it up and have it melt right on the tip. I want to heat this up to the point where it's soldering temperature. Be able to just plop it on there. Another little bit. Gotta flux that one too. I made it so it was big enough to go over this and have plenty of room for free movement around the outside of that disc. Let's just feed him through there. This will really be the only other thing I'm going to solder on here. This time I really will actually pick solder. This one can set to the side for the moment. For soldering stuff like this together, using the same melting temperature solder here, so if I don't want that little wire to fall off, since these are technically two separate pieces, I just heat that. It should jump on that one over there and not get the disc. Just to give you an idea though, now that I have that soldered on there, push this through here. We'll be bending it around, so it creates a loop on the back there, so I'll have to cut it off a little bit shorter. So that. So it should, when I have all three of them together, it should give quite a bit of movement between all of those. And the connections will be hidden behind the pieces, you know. So I think that'll be cool. I'm going to go ahead and solder that other one, all the pieces on there, and then I'll pickle them and we can start on the second one. Like I said, I'm going to be doing 3 domed discs. Top one brass, middle one copper, back one silver, and I'm going to hammer the back one and the brass one so that they kind of differentiate between those and the other ones a little bit. I did a little bit of, you know, shining up, getting rid of most of the big scratches on these. My thing is a little rough here, so I'm going to put that there. Absorb some of the scratches from the bench block, and I'm just going to use my peen here. I sort of find this part of it a little bit therapeutic. That's pretty good. Then we need to do these 2 brass ones. See if I can do this without sending them somewhere else. At least it didn't go flying off the table. So I want these all to line up nicely like this. So I think I'm going to try and do the same thing I did before and drill these after I kind of tape them together. Okay, hopefully we can kind of keep that in place. Let's see if we can do the same thing on this one. Okay, I'm going to drill those. I'll be right back. I got these all drilled, so I'm going to try and dome these just a skosh. Alright, so I want a relatively good sized loop for these ones, so I got some room to work with. That should be big enough to allow some freedom of movement, I would think. Where'd you go? My tool pile's getting worse. Okay. I like that. I like the way that hangs. I used just some scrap copper and some scrap brass. It looks like it's about 22 gauge maybe. These silver ones were also 22, so it's pretty close. The copper may be slightly thicker, like 20 maybe. Okay, so I can solder this little jump ring closed. Okay, we're going to put those in the pickle for a while. And then we can start on number 3, which is going to involve 2 pieces of 26 gauge here. I'm going to roll them through the rolling mill with a texture to give them some kind of texture, so I have to decide which texture I want. So I'll be right back. You could texture these in a number of different ways. They make those texture plates that you can put through the rolling mill with them. You could take them and you could set them on top of a brick and pound on them if you wanted to get kind of a brick texture, or the driveway or whatever. You could roll it through the rolling mill with some fabric. All those are great ways. I have a friend in Hawaii who has one of those laser cutters, and she sent me some of these really cool textures, so I'm going to use I think this one is kind of fun and sort of mid-century modern, which is sort of something I like. So let's cut that one out. I'm going to use a little brass to back it. Okay, let's go to the rolling mill and roll those through and see what we produce. I apologize for how messy my little area is over here. I haven't had much of a chance to clean it up lately. That's pretty cool. Before we cut these and bend these into the cone kind of shape that I'm going to make them, I'm going to anneal them so that they're a little bit softer again, because when you roll it through the rolling mill, it work hardens it pretty seriously. So we're just going to heat it up and let it cool down so that it softens it back up again. Just let those cool for a bit. Everybody asks about these shears. These are just Fisker's craft shears. You can find them at most hobby stores. These particular ones have the titanium coated blades, so supposedly they'll last a little longer. Okay, so that's what we're going to do for the other one too. In fact, I can just trace the other one if I want to, probably. Okay, I think to start curving these, I'm going to use my bail making pliers. And I'm going to line it up with the edge like that. And just kind of start that way. Same way on this side. Okay, let's see if we can't solder that together. I'm going to solder it from the inside so you don't have a lot of excess overflow. I guess I need some solder first. Good, we got a seam, we got to run all the way up the seam there. So let me do that to the other one as well. So I rounded those out, mostly using my round nose pliers, and I soldered the second one like that. So they're pretty good. There's a couple of things left to do. I have some of this, I think it's 10 gauge wire that I should be able to fit right in there. And on the top of this, I'm going to solder a little jump ring. So I think I'm going to solder these in first, like this. So they just stick out a little bit. My grandmother's was Norwegian, and she used to always make krumkake, which was a kind of a pastry sort of thing. But you rolled it up in little tubes like this, so whenever I make something like this, it reminds me of that a little bit. I have to round that one out a little bit. And they both hang pretty much the same way. Close enough, probably. Okay, the final thing is I made those little step bezels off camera. since we're doing 3 projects. If you want to see how to make step bezels for faceted stones, I will put a link right up there for you to a video about it. So I think what I'm going to do on these is I'm going to solder them on kind of like that. Leave myself enough to make a little loop at the bottom, and then enough to make a French wire on the top. Somebody's going to ask me how far up that is, and I have no idea. I'm just guessing. It's about centered at about 2 centimeters up from the bottom. So. I'm going to pick a little bit more on the bottom just to make sure it's on both sides. Got a good connection on each of those, so I'm going to drop that in the pickle. Let's see if I can't do this one too. I'm going to let those 3 finish pickling, and these ones I'll need to pickle still, and then we'll hook them all together and get things polished up, and I'll set those stones for you at the end. Here's the first pair. I like how they are articulated, they kind of move nicely. So I've seen a lot of earrings like that over the years, and I don't think I've ever made any before, but I really liked the way these came out, so that's a good one. It wasn't terribly complex. These ones were relatively simple as well. One thing that I struggle with sometimes is when I texture something and then I polish the texture away. So there's a little bit of texture there, enough to catch the light, I think, but when we photograph it, it may not show up so much. So yeah, those, and then finally we got these here. I think those are kind of cool. The blue really stands out nicely. So, yeah, that's kind of what I was shooting for. I'll take some better pictures and put them at the end. Well, that was the 3 sheet earring projects video. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, make sure to hit the like button before you leave. And also, take a moment and check out my playlists. I just revised my channel page so that the playlists show up right underneath, I think, the videos, the regular recently released videos. So you might want to check those out. It makes it a lot easier to navigate the 270 plus videos that I've put out in the past couple of years. So there's categories like beginner, intermediate, and a little bit more difficult projects. I've split them up into rings, pendants, bracelets, etc. It makes it a lot easier to find what you're looking for, I hope. So check those out. Also, before you go, if you want to become a supporter of the channel, check out the links down below in the video description. There's 4 different links. One is to the Buy Me a Coffee page, which helps out with supplies, like I said. Second one is to my merch store, where you get one of those nice design idea books, or a t-shirt, or a mug that's branded with Chad Silversmithing. There's a link to my webpage where you can find all sorts of jewelry for sale, some of which I've made on the channel here. And finally, there's a link to my Patreon if you want to check that out and find out a little bit more about that. So thank you for stopping by today, and thanks for watching. Take care. Happy silversmithing.